With this. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm so excited for everybody that's joining us today. We have a lot of people who are new, so welcome. We have people who are going to be listening in. I have another platform going at the same time, and then there are those who are actually going to get the recording later. So for those of you who don't know me, just a quick moment, my name is Dr. Dawn April Ross, and I do a lot of work as a metaphysical counselor. And what that means is that all the work that we do is using the principles of metaphysics in order to achieve the goals that we desire. And if you want to know more about that, I will also send links at the end in the chat, so you can check out my website or also contact me directly. This webinar is going to be very interactive if you choose to. If you just want to listen in, that's fine as well. But if you want to join in, please feel free to join in, because I find that the energy that we all use together really helps to bring up the level of the webinar and to bring us to just a higher energy by using everyone else's collective energy together. So today what we're going to be talking about is about self-discipline. And some of what I'm going to be sharing with you today, some may seem like common sense, some may seem like something new that you've heard, and hopefully anything that you will hear today, there'll be at least one point that you'll be able to take and run with and say, wow, okay, this is really going to make a difference and a change. There are a couple reasons why I think that this webinar that we're going to do today is going to be so very different and helpful for you. One is that I'm a person myself who am living constantly by these principles. I used to be over 85 kilo, which is over 200 pounds. And I was very heavy, very overweight, very unhappy with myself at that point. And I've been able to keep that amount of weight off for almost 20 years now. And so that principle of what I learned to do effectively and implement in my own life, these guiding principles are what I'm going to share with you today that you can use towards anything that you would like to change in your life now. Any habits that you're looking towards changing, anything that you want to achieve, you can do. My methods are based in metaphysical properties, which is really about changing and shifting our energy to create the world and environment that we want. And it's also based in tools, simple and easy to use tools that I use every day, that I use with my clients for over a decade now that I've been doing this work, and they're effective. So there's a lot of things that I have studied and learned and researched just by my own trial and error that I have seen, that I've said, well, that makes sense, but that doesn't really work in real life. And so there is a very high rate of people who will attempt to do things and will not see them to fruition because the tools don't apply to everyone, and there's not one method that's going to work for everybody. So I'm going to give you a lot today, and you can pick and choose and try out and see what works for you and what doesn't. And I think that is where you're going to find the key to your success. Now, and I'm not trying to say this in any negative fashion, but this is kind of one of the rules of humanity, let's say. This is why gyms, fitness studios make so much money, because they're planning on people not showing up, not on people showing up. So if you imagine that everybody who signed up with a gym membership came every single day, all the time, they would never have enough equipment or enough teachers, and they would go out of business, and they'd also not make any money. So they really do plan, and effectively everywhere in the world they plan that people will come, and then they won't come so often, or they'll only come certain days, or they'll give up. So this is, a basic kind of human nature when we try to do things in an extreme way, or we try to really make a huge change of something that, let's say is not comfortable to us or natural to us. So I'm going to give you some methods that I think are very natural, very comfortable, and easy to do so that you will have a success. Okay? So if anytime you have any questions, I will stop also and keep asking. If there's anything you want to share, please do, because I think that's what's going to make this class really special. Okay, we ready to go? Okay, fantastic. So let's begin. So first thing is, when we're talking about self-discipline, when we're talking about taking a habit, making a new habit, making a change and making it stick, what we're really talking about is time and consistency, right? We want to give time to do something, and we want to do it on a consistent basis. It's where we fall apart very often, because we lose that consistency. Life happens, there are events, there are things that are going on, and we find ourselves not able to always stay in that consistent pattern that we're trying to create. So I'm going to point out some different techniques, some sort of, let's say, principles that you can apply. One first principle that I want to give you is the principle of moderation, okay? When I work with clients, and I've done this for over 12 years now, when we do something, whether it's giving up smoking or trying to not fight as much with a partner, or losing weight, exercising, any of the typical things that we try to do, the thing is that most people get really excited and they set their goals really high, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to work out every single day, and then they set themselves up for something that's very difficult and challenging and may not really fit into their lifestyle or be realistic for what they're going to do. So moderation really is a key in all of this, to not set ourselves up to a place where we say it's got to be every day, or it's got to be all or nothing, right? These are terms that automatically create a sense of entrapment within ourselves. And as humans, we don't want to feel like we are trapped in something. We don't want to feel like we are being controlled by something. It is our natural tendency to go and try and do the opposite. This is why when I work with clients one-on-one for eating habits, let's say, I never tell them to say, okay, you can never ever have this thing, whatever it is, again, because that automatically becomes the thing you want the most, right? Because now you've told yourself I can't have it, and then all of a sudden it's like you say, okay, I'm giving up bread, and then everywhere you look, there smells nice bread, there's an advert for bread, oh my gosh, I want bread. You maybe didn't even care about it 5 minutes ago, but the minute you said you couldn't have it, it's what you want most. So moderation means being able to go and do things at a slow pace. If it's something you know that you want to change, you change it slowly, maybe doing it less if it's something you want to give up, or doing something a little bit more if it's something you want to start. The idea that it has to be all or nothing or right away is automatically setting us up for a challenge in being able to stick to it, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so far I think that makes sense. And the idea of our moderation means finding something that we know is going to work for us. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Number two, about what our principles are, is motivation. Now you will hear for sure people saying to you that the way you're going to stick to something is if you find your motivation and you really stick with it, and you say, yes, this is why I'm going to do this. And I will tell you, or I will ask you rather, if you were to classify the idea of motivation, could anyone tell me what they would consider motivation to be? What is motivation? Does anyone have an idea?
Yeah, a goal you want to achieve.
Motivation, right, is a goal you want to achieve. But what is the thing, motivation itself? What is it? Like, is a tangible word, what would you call motivation?
It's a mindset. Okay,
I like that. It's a mindset, sure. A mindset, an emotion, right? A feeling. And a mindset, an emotion, a feeling. Are any of those things words that you would consider to be permanent? No, for sure not. So why do we always think that we can set one motivation in stone and that's going to get us through? Because it's something that's completely impermanent. It doesn't make sense. So motivation is an emotion and it's always changing. It always has a sense of impermanency. So if you try and find what your motivation is to be doing this change that you want to do, you have to keep checking in on that motivation at least on a weekly, if not daily basis, because your motivation can constantly be changing. And this is one of the pitfalls I find is in a motivation. If we say, okay, this is my motivation, I want to do this, and then let's say we miss that goal or that date of the thing that we wanted to be motivated by, or then we find that we're now in a different place or a different relationship or a different situation, that original motivation has left us. And now we're still holding on or clinging to something that doesn't make sense in our present state. So making sure you're checking in, you can ask yourself, what is my motivation? But you want to check in and make sure that that motivation is still the thing that I am going to be using as my fire in my belly to keep me going. Now let's talk about motivation. Are we motivated from a place of fear or a place of love? And anybody who's come to my sessions before knows that I am very much in favor, as we talk about the metaphysical purposes in our life, that we need to make our decisions, right, from a place of love, not a place of fear. But so often our motivation becomes something that we look at from a place of fear, and we use that to be the motivator or to be that energy that pushes us forward. Now we do this because in the process of our subconscious mind, right? And this is where we make a lot of those changes. As you recall, when we talked in other classes about the NLP or the neuro-linguistic programming, our subconscious brain holds on to those things that we feel are good motivators. It's not looking at it from a rational place where we would like to be motivated, but it's using it from its own kind of energy that says, okay, yes, this is a place where I can find my motivation. This is where it's going to work for me. And it uses that. So for example, if one of your challenges or your things might be about making more money, and you say, well, I've got to make more money, and this is one of the things I really want to be disciplined about. I want to build a business or create something. And in the past, let's say the times you've made more money is when you've looked at your bank account and it's dropped below a certain number and it's gotten you kind of nervous and you're like, oh boy, I better do something. And then you feel all of a sudden this motivation to do that. And then you went out and you did a campaign or you talked to people or whatever that was. And then maybe you eked out one new client or you got some kind of, money from this. Your subconscious brain went, yes, that's the thing to do. And so what does it do? It says, let's get ourselves really close to that scary number and dip under, and then that'll keep motivating us. So we subconsciously can set ourselves up into situations that either are like very pressure, we feel ourselves very nervous or anxious or worried, and then we feel that that's a fire to motivate us. Many times you might come across people who will say, I work best under pressure. That's not really true. They may work under pressure, but it's not like they work best under pressure. So we have to ask ourselves, is that motivation? Am I using or am I continually caught in a pattern of what my subconscious brain believes is a great motivator for me? So when I talk about fear or love, the question is, am I deciding whatever it is I want to do from that place of love or fear? So when I was trying to lose weight, was it, I'm afraid that, I might get sick if I'm overweight? Am I afraid that I will be alone and no one will want me because I'm overweight? Am I afraid that I'm going to never be happy in my body? Or am I doing it because I love myself and I care about myself enough to say, you know what, I need to take good care of my body and my health and nurture and nourish myself the right way, right? So is my motivation, the thing that I want to do, am I making it from a place of fear or a place of love? And this morning when I was meditating on how I was going to teach this, one of the things that popped into my head that I thought was pretty funny was the idea of getting married and having a partner. And so my question would be, it would be my motivation in getting married and trying to make that marriage work, the fear of getting divorced, or because I want to be in a happy marriage, right? So would I do that? Would I be married and say, well, I just want to get married because I'm too afraid to like get divorced, or I'm too afraid to be alone, or I'm too afraid to not have somebody? Or would my motivation be because I want to find somebody who I really care about and love and spend the rest of my life with? You know, so if I'm standing there at the altar and whomever is marrying me says, so why do you take this person to be your spouse? And I say, well, because I'm pretty afraid of being alone, so I better get somebody. You know, I would hope or think that that person would say, you know, maybe this is not the best choice for us. You know, or am I saying, in from a positive way, well, I want to spend my life with you and I think this would be great, and I'm looking at a positive motivation or reason, right? So as silly and funny as that sounds, from this idea of what's my motivation, that's what we really have to look at when we're trying to change certain habits. Am I trying to change it because my motivation is from a really positive place and something I'm excited about seeing happening? Or is it from a place of fear about something that I don't want to see happen? And I will tell you, a lot of us look at the motivation from a place of fear of something that I don't want to see happen. So when you are looking at your motivation and finding that thing that really you say, this is what I want to do, then ask yourself, is that motivation from a positive standpoint, from a place of love for myself, or something I'm really looking forward to? Or is it from a place of fear, well, I don't want? So I've thrown three principles at you. Does anybody have any questions before I move on?
What was the third?
First is moderation, second is motivation, and the third is fear or love for our decision in the motivation. Okay. Okay, good. So let's move on. Now I'm giving you a lot because it's so much to fit into 1 hour. And again, if you have something very specific that you want to do and you need to tailor make a plan to it, you can contact me. It's no charge. I always give free 15-minute consultations. So write me, text me, call me, whatever. And I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about how we can, make a plan that would work for you. I'm actually just going to send out in the chat screen right now my email for everyone in case you need it to contact me. Okay, so let's go moving on. One of the next things I want to talk about is what is one of the things that stops us, when we're in this, or how can we, let's say, combat one of the big things that stops us. And I think one of the things that I find that has been very challenging is procrastination, right? Does anybody ever procrastinate? Have you ever procrastinated in your life on anything? I know Don's never has, right? Don always does everything. But procrastination, it can be a challenge. And one of the things that we do to battle that, one of the little things we can start building up, that idea of our self-discipline, is to try and find things that we can work on with a very simple sort of like three-pronged approach that helps us to start to get these habits. Okay, so when I talk about the idea of discipline, it really is like a muscle in your brain, and the muscle in your brain is something that we need to exercise, right? And we all need to at some point learn how to exercise this muscle of our brain. And as we do this, as we try to to make it happen, the challenge is that we, like any other muscle that we have, right? We need to practice using it, okay? And as we try to practice using this muscle in our brain, it gets better, right? Because we're using it more often. When I was over 200 pounds, I remember going to the gym the first time, and we did these like little exercises, lifting your legs and this and that. And I remember going home that day, and I sat down, and this was before I had ever studied anything about medicine or studied anything in relation to physiology. And I remember I went to sit down, and my butt hurt. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's muscles in my butt. I had no idea. I thought that was just fat. I didn't know there was a muscle anywhere in my butt. This is how off I was on my physiology. And I said, wow, that muscle just got used. And it hadn't been used in a while. And so it became now a habitual thing that I had to learn that there were muscles and I had to use them. And so our self-discipline is also like a muscle in our brain that we need to learn how to use. Okay? So we start off with very simple things. Again, remember when I talked about this, I said, don't try to go leaps and bounds over all these big things that you want to accomplish. Everything needs to be broken down in simple bite-sized pieces. And so one of the ways we begin to get over, like I said, a procrastination is to try these 3 little steps out. So this is principle number 4. Try these little simple steps out with things that you do every day without exception. So something that you know you have to do every day. I'm not saying give yourself a task you have to do every day. What I'm saying is do something. Add these 3 little steps I'm going to give you to something you have to do. So what's something you might have to do every day? Go to sleep. There's a thing you got to do every day, right? Eat. Something you're going to have to do every day, right? Perhaps, hopefully brush your teeth. There's a thing you have to do every day. You know, so take a shower. Anything that you're looking at as a principle of something that you have to do every day, you're going to apply these 3 steps to. 1, first step is finish, complete whatever it is that you began. Okay, so to overcome procrastination, we're going to take something that we need to do each day. We're going to make sure that we complete this little simple thing. Okay, so what do I mean by completion, right? So if completion, like in some way means like, you know, let's say you're having a meal, okay, and you cook your meal and you eat, you know, your meal on your plate and your glass and your silverware, and you finish, you might say, okay, I'm just going to throw this in the sink and I'm going to be done with it. And then that's, you know, what you've done. But perhaps your finish or your completion of this task is, I'm going to actually take the time to wash the dish and wash the silverware and the cup and put it away, right? So I don't come back and it's all piled up. And that may be your completion of the task. I go to sleep and I wake up in the morning, I might just jump out of bed and, you know, hurry up and go do something, or I might actually take the time to make the bed. That may be my completion, right? So that idea of what can I do simple, something I have to do every day, and feel that I've made a completion around it. Does that make sense so far what I'm saying? Okay. So it's the idea of a completion. The second principle, or sorry, the second point to this 4th principle, always reminds me of this fellow who when I worked at a museum, there was this guard there, and every day he always gave me the same response. And I thought it was really, you know, cute, because it always made me think each day as he said it. I would say, hey, you know, Bob, how you doing? And he would always say to me, well, I'm better than yesterday, but not as good as tomorrow. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty cool thing to say, you know, and that was like his goal. That was his mantra for every day. How you doing? Better than yesterday, but not as good as tomorrow. And so in the second point of the 4th principle is, can I do a little more than I think I can? Can I go a little bit further in making an effort? okay? So if I'm making the bed, maybe I don't just do it kind of like, really quick, and it's all lumpy and I've just like got it covered and that's fine, you know, which I will agree, I tend to do a lot. Do I take the moment and say, you know what, I'm going to smooth it out. Maybe I'm going to tuck it under like they do in the hotel. Maybe I'm going to make it look like really kind of nice. And that's going to be doing a little bit more than I think I can. Do I take the dishes if I do them and I just kind of like do really quick and just throw them in the dishwasher and then hope maybe they come out clean and then end up having to wash them a second time? Or maybe I make a really nice effort, you know, I clean them, maybe I even dry them and put them away. A little bit more than I think I can. Kind of raising the bar a little bit for something I gotta do anyway. Little things that seem like so unimportant, but making that little extra effort to do that. That's number 2. And number 3 is to do it a little bit better than I did it last time. So if there's something that I feel like, well, I did that, but you know what, maybe this time I might do it a little bit better than I did it last time, then I'm making even a further effort. And we're doing this with really simple things, with things that seem that like they might be very unimportant, but I know and I feel that it's worth it to make that effort, right? To do it a little bit better than I did it last time. You know, maybe I actually at some point take the time and I learn how to make a fancy fold on my bedding like they do in the hotel. Or maybe if I do, you know, my plates and all of this, I actually decide that I'm going to clear out the tray where all the water falls when I wash the dishes. You know, maybe if I'm doing something a little bit better than I did last time, I'm kind of being creative, or I'm thinking about how I can, you know, make this as an improvement, how I can do it a little bit better. And these are very little simple methods towards breaking through procrastination and starting to get into healthier habits. And as we do that, you know, we see that we are now moving into a state of where does that effort lie. And believe me, as a person, as I've said, who actually was able to accomplish something, it doesn't mean, when we're talking about my weight loss, it doesn't mean that I'm not always being challenged. And it also doesn't mean that my absolute innate nature is to be incredibly lazy. That is my nature. People look at me all the time and they say, wow, you work out every day, you're so disciplined. I'm not truly in my true nature, but I've learned tricks and techniques that make it palatable to me and give me the motivation to actually do it. If somebody were to ask me, do you really enjoy getting up and doing that hour and a half workout 6 days a week? No, honestly, I would say that's not really my thing. When I go on holiday, I'm not like, yay, gonna work out. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna work out at all this holiday. That's my big break. Because it's not truly what I'm enjoying, but I do enjoy the motivation. I do enjoy what is principle number 5, which is consequences. Now, consequences can sound like a negative thing, but in reality, consequences are truly why we do anything. We do anything based on what we feel the consequence for that action will be. I met somebody recently, and we were having a conversation, and they were saying to me that they really, really enjoy volunteering and giving to charity, and that this totally altruistic behavior. And they were saying how lovely it is, you know, to have this motivation purely just to make others be happy and to see their lives get better. And I said to this fellow, I said, so you're getting nothing out of it? What could I possibly get out of it? I said, I don't know. Does it make you feel good to do it? Do you feel like a better person for doing it? Does it make you feel like you're contributing? We said, yes, of course, all those things. And I said, well, then that are your consequences. Then that's why you're doing it. And as humans, we tend to try and do things that make us feel happy if we can. That's our motivation. Humans will always give the effort towards doing the things that they really enjoy and most often will procrastinate and not do the things they don't enjoy, right? So think about the consequences, again, in a positive sense, right? If I know my motivation is going to be something that's going to bring me that consequence, when I'm concerned or thinking about what my motivation might be, then think about what it is in the broadest term of what is going to bring me, right? How will I, and when I say what's going to bring me in feeling, right? Feeling what it feels like to have accomplished this thing. So when I sit there and I say, okay, I want to lose weight, let's say, it's not because I'm saying that, well, I really want to lose weight because I know that it's going to be a true benefit for my health. Yes, sure. But that's not really the consequence that's going to motivate me. The consequence that's going to motivate me is when I can fit into the clothes that are smaller than what I'm wearing now, and I go out and I feel good, and I feel happy, and I feel like, not bad about myself. That's the consequence. That's the thing that motivates me. If I want to stop a bad habit, it is in the feeling good that I enjoy when the bad habit stops that is my motivation, because it makes me feel peaceful, makes me feel good, makes me feel peaceful, makes me feel attractive, makes me feel confident, makes me feel loved. Whatever those feelings are, that's a motivation based on the consequence of what it feels like when I've accomplished it. So from the metaphysical standpoint, what are the things that we have to do as we talk about, when we talk about the practice of manifestation is, can I sit with this, and can I now imagine or visualize what it feels like when I've achieved this goal? Because I will guarantee you that most of the time you're thinking about what it feels like if you don't, or what it feels like where you are right now. I look in the mirror and I'm overweight and I say, oh, I hate the way I look, nothing fits me, I'm such a fat pig. And then I go to eat a cookie and I say, no, I'm not going to eat it because I don't want to get fatter. That is not a true motivation. A true motivation is letting myself sit for 5 minutes and feeling what it feels like when I feel good in my body, feeling what it feels like when I feel like I can go out and go shopping and I can buy something and I don't have to try it on first because I know I'm going to fit that size. If I want to quit smoking, telling myself, well, I don't want to get cancer, that's going to be my motivation, not going to work. But saying how good it feels if I can run up the stairs and I don't feel out of breath, and I can see that consequence and I can visualize it. From the metaphysical standpoint, I've now aligned myself to what feels good in the consequence rather than the thing I'm afraid is going to happen. And this is why fear-based incentives do not work. They work temporarily, but they're not true motivators for humankind. We have cigarettes here with big pictures of black lungs and people dying and blah, 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 blah. And they even came out with a cigarette brand. It was called like Ultra Death, Gonna Kill You. And everybody was like, woohoo, bought them more. It's true, because they thought, the people are all, when I talk to people who smoke and maybe don't want to quit, they'll always say to me something like, well, you got to die from something, and that's the thought. So the thought of that, I'm going to scare you or fear you into motivating, is not truly how people change habits. Make sense? So ask yourself, what are the consequences? What are the things I really want in a positive sense? And can I just let myself sit for 5 minutes and visualize it, imagine it, see how I feel? How does it feel in my body when those things are happening? If I want to work towards building a business, how does it feel when I feel that business accomplished? If I want to work towards passing my exams and getting a degree, how does it feel in my body when I've done that? If I'm going to work towards building a happy relationship and accomplishing that and having a partnership, how does it feel when I've done that? Not, uh-oh, what if I fail? What if I'm alone? What if I'm miserable? Those are not our motivators, right? Now, usually we've all been there, But now it's a learning process of how do I retrain my brain to focus on the things I do want to see rather than the things I'm afraid I will see if I don't do it. Everybody with me so far?
Is consequence the same as benefit?
Can be, for sure. Right, what are the benefits? I like that. That's a good word. So what are the benefits from doing this thing? Not what is the thing I don't want to see happen, but what are the benefits? Okay, so moving along. There's research that's been done, and this is one of the things that will contradict probably a lot of what we have learned about how to get into healthy habits or how to stop bad habits. And this is a lot of research that I've read about, and I've gone through all kinds of different places and conversed with different people, and my own experience in working with clients. And I can tell you that I see this as much more effective as what you may have been told before. Okay, so what this is are, again, so this is principle 6, and principle 6 is how are three major, how can I call this? 3 major human motivators, I will call it. Okay, so human motivators. These are things that have been studied over and over and are shown to be principal motivators for human beings. Okay. The fourth was procrastination, and that was the 3 points of to battle procrastination, which is finish what I begin, do a little more than I think I can, and do it a little better than the last time. Thank you, Nika, for asking. Okay. So 5 is benefits, or we'll call it consequences or benefits. So number 6, 3 human motivators. Okay. So the first one is social incentive. Okay. So what is social incentive? We as people want to believe that we can just say, well, on my own, I can do this. This is what's going to motivate me. This is what's going to make me want to make those changes. But we are social creatures. As much as some of us may not spend that much time with others or may feel ourselves introverted, at the true nature of our being, we do want to, sometimes in a positive way and sometimes not always in a positive way, we want to compare. We want to know how are we doing in comparison to others. So in the research that's been done, it has been about having a social initiative, meaning we need to know, we need to see what the average is, what other people are doing. And if we do that, we then feel like, oh, great, I'm better than average, right? Or, oh, I can do better than this one or that one. So the initiative we have, or what we need as a motivator, is not to compare in a negative sense, because I do have a lot of clients who will suffer from anxiety and fear because they're constantly comparing themselves to others negatively and saying, oh no, they're better than me, and now I don't feel good about myself. But rather looking at social incentive as saying, what are other people doing, and is this something that I feel that I am comparable in what I'm doing, or do I feel like I'm doing better than the average? It is a motivator. People do not want to be less than average. No one has ever gotten up and said, I'd really like to do more poorly. I think that would be a great motivator. Doing average, that's way too high for me. I just want to do worse than the group. I want to bring that curve down. It's just not a human motivator. So when you look at those things that help us to be disciplined, one of those things is to really take a look at what others are doing and to give ourselves a goal of striving to be in that higher echelon. This is where people desire to be. No one desires to be less than. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a pressure for perfectionism or to be the best of everyone, though some people do like that as a motivation. But the idea is to look around, to not isolate, and to understand we are interdependent beings. And so we like to know. And there's many ways that people can do that. There are different kinds of community, apps, and programs. Correct, Nika. Yes, it's like being competitive, for sure. Competition can be a strong motivator. Now, understanding that in competition, it shouldn't make us feel that there's a sense of lack, meaning I'm competing with somebody else, and therefore, if they do better than me, then I'm in trouble because now there's not enough to go around, but rather that I'm in a place of creation. I'm creating, and so I want to compete, but through my own creative methods. Not because there's a lack, but because I want to be in a state where I know that I'm doing the best that I can do, and that in comparison to others is pretty good. You know, a lot of people, I remember I talked to my mom recently, and my mom said, I don't think I'm a very competitive person. And I said to her, and my mom, I think she's 73 now, and her husband is 75. And I said, last week I recorded you racing from the living room to the door against each other because you said you could beat him. And I said, and you think you're not competitive? And this was like running from the living room to the front door because they had an argument about who would get there faster. And she's like, okay, maybe I am. I said, of course you are. So, you know, the social incentive, there's a lot of ways you can go out there. Like I said, if there's anything that you're looking to do, there's lots of forums, there's lots of apps and ways to track and see how you're doing in comparison with others. And it can be very helpful in creating an incentive. And I'll talk a little bit more about one of the experiments where they were able to find this out. And let me give you the other two first. So the second is immediate rewards. Okay, so this is under principle 6 of human motivators. The second is immediate rewards. Very often you will hear people say, no, you've got to delay your gratification, right? You've got to just hold out and look at the long term of, you know, what the goal is going to be later, what the reward will be. Does not work. I've never seen anybody truly be motivated by that. You know, you're going out to a holiday party and there's cakes and pies and cookies, and you're going to say, I'm just going to eat carrot sticks all night because I know that 3 months down the road I'm going to feel better about myself. It doesn't work like that. Immediate rewards work. Holding back and waiting for a later reward of delayed gratification. We are a society that enjoys immediate rewards. We do not want to delay gratification. We're constantly looking for being able to do things and have it. And truly, immediate rewards actually have been proven to create habits that will stick for a minimum of 6 months. So now immediate rewards doesn't mean that you're like celebrating to the point of destroying what you've just done in your progress. But what it means is you need along the way all the time ways to find how to reward yourself for what you're doing. And you need to do it constantly. That is our human nature. We like to have rewards about things. We want to see them right now, not 6 months down the road. So anything we can find. Now, if again, going back to the idea of diet, if I'm trying to diet and exercise and I say, woo, I lost a pound this week, I'm going to eat a cake. Okay, that's probably not the best reward. I probably will destroy what I've just done. But a reward may be something different, like in the sense of, okay, if I would normally, let's say, eat a box of cookies a day, and I say, well, if I get through this day, I will give myself 1 cookie. That may be a reward that I look forward to, and I feel I've accomplished something and given myself some pleasure about it. If I study all day and I say I can watch 1 episode of something on Netflix rather than binging the whole night, that may be my reward. If I ask myself, if I lose, let's say, a little bit of weight, and that means that I buy a new shirt or a new pair of pants, okay, that's my reward. If I accomplish my task and through that I give myself, an hour chilling out and drinking a glass of wine or something, okay, that's my reward. So it has to be all the time. We need to give ourselves rewards. That is our human nature. It's what we've learned from our childhood, and it's what we continue on even as adults. And the third point in human motivators is progress monitoring. Okay? What does progress monitoring mean? It means a sense of accountability and seeing results, seeing progress. We need to see progress, and we need to focus on the good that's happening now, not things that could deteriorate in the future. This is why accountability is so important. People who, for example, want to get fit do much better if they have personal trainers. Why? Because they know, uh-oh, somebody's coming next week and I better be able to do more than I did last week. I'm trying to learn a language right now, and it is so much more helpful for me to have tutoring that I have twice a week, because I know, uh-oh, I better do the homework or she's going to notice I haven't learned anything, because it's not so easy to always motivate yourself on your own without somebody who's checking in on your progress. Now, it can be your own progress, and you may be motivated to do that. It can be something you share with someone else, like a coach or a counselor like me, or even people you're working with. I remember my mom once saying to me, she sat me down and she said to me, Dawn, don't ever tell people at work you're on a diet unless you're really committed to stick to it. She said, because otherwise everybody's going to be watching what you put in your mouth. And I said to her, okay. And she's like, trust me. She's like, I got to eat donuts in the toilet now. I was like, oh, okay, Mom. But that was, her philosophy. And she was right, because she knew that was going to be a motivator. When I meet people who are wanting to end a relationship, and they're finally at that point where they know they need to do it, that's when they start telling everybody, the fighting they're having or the problems, or they're thinking of leaving, because they know people will start to keep them accountable and say, hey, are you still with him? Are you still fighting? What's going on? If they don't really want to do it, they're not going to say anything, because they don't want that accountability. So accountability can come in terms of working with others, can be tracking your progress yourself in an app, can be just telling other people in your community around you about what you're doing. So one of the interesting things that I was researching about when they were talking about the research is they said they did an experiment in a hospital, and they were checking, and this was many years ago before COVID, so this will not make sense now, but years ago, they were tracking how many of the practitioners would be washing their hands before they saw a patient and after they saw a patient. And they had cameras that were on them, and they were just watching. And even though the practitioners knew they were being watched, only 1 in 10 washed their hands before and after. Hopefully that number has gone up now. But this was what was happening back in the day. This was like, I think, 5 years ago. And then they did an experiment. What they did was they actually installed then this monitoring system. So when people would go, now the practitioners would go and they would wash their hands, and they would wash before and after. It would actually flash up on a screen, and it would show them how many times they had done it, like a percentage of doing it for the people they saw, how everybody else was doing, and then who was ranked as doing it the best. And just these 3 little things that they put into place increased the efficacy of people doing it to 90%. So 90% of people were motivated. Now everybody knew these were all people who were intelligent and were trained, and knew there was a chance of infection and illness for themselves, a chance of getting sick for themselves, and chance of possibly having to battle an illness if they didn't wash their own hands. And that was not motivating enough. But when they saw how they were doing in comparison to everyone else, and they saw that they could get their name at the top, and they saw what their progress was, now all of a sudden they were motivated to do it. They then implemented the same sort of technique for people trying to pay their taxes on time in the UK. And they installed the same sort of technique. They had a letter that would go out, and the letter that would go out to people would be like, please pay your taxes on time, it's a good thing to do. And people are like, whatever, there was not a lot of motivation in that letter, right? And not even a motivation in the letter by saying, you're going to receive a fine if you don't do it. They had some increase, but not a lot. But then they went out and they sent another letter, and the letter said, 9 out of 10 people pay them on time. Then all of a sudden, they saw a 20% increase in people paying their taxes on time because they wanted to be in that higher percentage. They wanted to be in that percentile. So we see that there is that social incentive. We need those immediate rewards. We need to know, like, I'm doing good and I can do well at this, and I feel like I'm getting some positive reinforcement. And we also want to see a monitoring of our progress. So as we talked about in the very beginning, the idea is not to just, as we talked, when I said time and consistency and moderation in the beginning, remember, it's not about just cutting something off in the beginning and saying, I'm not going to do this ever again, or I'm going to completely change that now. It's about very slowly entering into a habit by either slowly cutting down on something or slowly bringing something up, taking baby steps to make it work. When I look at what the goal may be, it can look like it is insurmountable. It can look like it is something that is so overwhelming, I don't even know where to start. And that's when I like to follow, if anybody has heard me say this before in any of our other courses, and that's principle 7, which is the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is you can do anything for 2 minutes. That's it. It seems like a silly thing when you think about, well, 2 minutes, how much progress am I really going to make in 2 minutes? Well, I'll tell you what, it's more progress than you'll make in 0 minutes. And when you find yourself in a place of even agreeing to yourself, your own little social contract with yourself, I'm just going to do it for 2 minutes, you may find yourself being able to do it a little bit longer than that. When I started trying to meditate, and everybody thinks like, oh, you know, when you study all this and you meditate, you know, you must love it and be good at it. I don't love it. I'm not great at it. And it's something I have to make myself do. So I said, okay, I'm going to get disciplined. I'm going to do meditation for 1 minute a day. And there's apps that you can find where it actually has a 1-minute meditation. Well, after I did 1 minute, I thought, all right, you know what? I'm doing 1 minute, I could do 2, right? And I do a 2-minute one, you know, while I'm sitting there. And then I'd say, all right, I did 2, you know, there's a 5-minute one. I'll just do 5 more minutes. And I found myself on average doing 10 minutes when I told myself I was only going to do 1. So the time was there and the ability to do it was there. But I needed to take that pressure off myself. If I had said to myself, I'm going to do 10 minutes a day, I probably never would have started. But when I said, I'm only going to do 1 minute or 2 minutes, then I felt like, okay, I can do this. So I have a client and she likes to jog, but she doesn't always feel that motivation to go out and do it. And I said, all right, just 2 minutes towards jogging a day. What can you do towards jogging in 2 minutes? She said, well, I could put my jogging suit on. I said, okay, that's all you got to do, right? That's literally, that's it. Just start with that. Okay, wait till later in the day when you feel motivated. What can you do in another 2 minutes? So I could put my trainers on and, you know, like get my iPad ready and, you know, do all that. I said, okay, that's another 2 minutes. Now go outside, jog for 2 minutes. How many people think she only went for 2 minutes and turned around and came back? You know, once you're out there, you say, all right, I can do a little bit more. Once you already got the jogging suit on, it's like, well, you know, I might as well do something with this, right? So sometimes whatever it is that we need to do means to break it down into the smallest amount that feels possible of what I can do. It is absolutely that bare minimum, right? The bare minimum of what I can do, and giving myself that opportunity to say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Which brings us to principle number 8. And principle number 8 is, actually the word is what is my principle? Okay, so what is my principle? Sort of like a question. What is my principle means not what is my goal, right? I know what my goal is. I know what I want to achieve. But the question is, what is my principle? And my principle means what is the accountability I want to hold myself to that is my absolute bare minimum, right? Again, we're not looking towards the big giant goal of what I want to do. Instead, every day I say, what is the principle that I want to hold myself accountable to? For example, if something I want to do is, let's say, write a book, okay? That's huge. That's a big thing. But what's my minimum principle I want to do? Maybe it's I need to write for at least 5 minutes a day. If I can sit down for 5 minutes, that's a principle I know I can hold myself accountable to, right? If I know that is something that is important for me, then I know that is something that is I can feel good about myself, saying that I've held myself to this bare minimum. And that's what you have to decide for yourself, what that bare minimum is of your own accountability. And it's okay. It can be as small as you want it to be. It's your own principle of what you feel is like, that's something I've gotten done. Now, for example, I'm working on building this online academy, right? Hopefully it will be out by the next year, and it's going to be a way that a portal that people can see my the work that I do in video form, and they can teach themselves if they want to, or they can use my principles and learn them as part of a tool that they may use if they have their own business and they want to help coach and assist others. But to do that, it means I have to create the course material and I have to record it. And when I thought about it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like forever to do all these recordings. And I said, okay, what feels realistic to me? And I said, you know what, if I can just do 1 hour a week, that's good enough for me. That feels like that's reasonable. And so I hold myself to that as the minimum. Sometimes, you know, I go back to number 4 principle, which is do a little more than I think, or do a little better than last time. And sometimes maybe I record 2 hours. But if I just record the 1 hour, that's okay, because that's my principle that said, if I do that, that's enough. So finding a principle for you that says, if I do this as a bare minimum, that's okay with me and I feel good enough, then that helps us to feel that I'm in a positive place and I stay motivated because I know I'm moving towards my goal. At a bare minimum, who cares? It's something. Again, 2 minutes is better than 0 minutes, right? So we talked about the principles. We talked about the idea of doing a minimum to stick to it. And one last principle that I want to give you is combination. Okay, so combination, what does that mean? Again, coming back to human nature, combination means take a thing that you may need to do. Okay, so you know from your goal, you've broken it down, and you know I've broken it into these small pieces to figure out how to get there, right? We've talked about I have to figure out, okay, what is my little bits I want to do, and then I'm going to do just those little bits. But sometimes those little bits, not really something I totally want to do, right? I know I need to do it. I know it's going to bring me forward, but I don't feel like, woohoo, it's something I really want to do today. So what we do is what's called combination. And combination means I take something, I may not be thrilled about doing it, and I try to combine it with something I want to do. This is why in the gyms, if you're on a machine, what do you normally see that is built into the machine, or what is the machine facing? Right? A TV. It's facing a TV. Why? Because we all have no problem watching a movie, watching a show, doing something like that, makes it more manageable while we're sitting there on the bicycle, on the treadmill, on the whatever, right? So it's, again, a brilliant principle. Combine something that you don't want to do or that you're not excited about doing with something that you do want to do. It's something that's so simple, but a lot of us forget that. We lock ourselves in a space thinking, oh, I got to go get this done, and I don't enjoy doing it. So whether it means simultaneously, like I'm listening to something or watching something at the same time, or it means breaking it up, you know, into ways you do it. This is how you have to decide what works for me. So if, for example, you say, you know what, I need to sit down and I need to write something out, right? This is something I have to do. I have to do taxes, or I have to get this done. And I have very bad discipline. I have to study for this exam. I have to prepare for this course. Maybe sitting down and saying, I have to do this for an hour straight is awful to you. So you look at what feels realistic or enjoyable to a point. You may say, okay, you know what? 20 minutes. I will sit down for 20 minutes. You set your alarm, your timer, and then when 20 minutes ends, you take maybe a 10-minute break and do something enjoyable, right? Watch a little something, eat something, drink something, whatever it is that you like to do, take a walk, call a friend, blah, 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 and then come back to it. It has been shown through research that people who will sit down and try to push themselves, even in groups, over and over again to work through without a break, will be much less productive than those who will take breaks in between, change their brain to using the other side of it, and then come back with a fresh mind to go and accomplish something again. Could even be with a workout for 20 minutes, take a 10-minute break, stretch, answer some emails, blah, 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 come back, do another 20 minutes. Does it take more time? Completely? Could be, but if you're going to not do it or you're going to separate that out, you're going to, in general, take up the amount of time. But when anything is something that you're trying to be productive on, I promise you, by taking those breaks in between and using the other side of your brain to refocus on something else, will come back and make you more productive. In Japan, they did this study. They had groups of 15 people. They gave them puzzles to do. And they said, you all as a team have to solve these puzzles and you have 3 hours to do it in. Group 1, you have to work 3 hours straight, see how many puzzles you get done. Group 2, you're going to do 3 hours, but you're going to take a break every 30 minutes for 10 minutes and come back and try to accomplish it. And as you can imagine, the group that had the breaks, they had meditation, they went out for a snack, they went to sleep, they played cards, whatever. When they came back, Group 2 solved more puzzles in 3 hours than Group 1 did, because they were able to switch their brain and come back. Sometimes we feel, because we've been taught, especially in school, you can't have a break or enjoy yourself until you've accomplished something, and then you're allowed to have that free moment. And we get that so deep in our system, we believe that that's what we have to do. Or we've been taught as children, if you don't do that, you're lazy. Or if you don't get up and do this, or you don't give time, you have problem focusing or concentrating. It's not true. That's not how our brains work. We're constantly shifting between left brain and right brain and left brain and right brain. So don't spend too much time doing one thing. Break it up into chunks, break it down into easy pieces, and combine it with things that bring you enjoyment, and you can get things done. So in the last moment, I know we're just a couple minutes over time. I just want to give you something. If you've come to my classes before, I'm sure you've tried it out, but I want to give this to all the new people who are joining us today. What I'm talking about in my principle is syncing in this course today is about syncing the two halves of our brain, right? Our right side and our left side. There's always one side of your brain that says, just do it, get it done, you can make it happen, and the other side that's scared, worried and fearful. And we want the two hemispheres of our brain working together. So when you leave after today and you have your free moment, you're sitting in bed or you're chilling out, and you're saying, okay, let's get those two sides of our brain to connect. You're going to take 1 minute, you're going to take your fists like this. If you remember, you're going to point your fists towards each other, and you're going to take the pointer finger of one of your fists. There you go, Don, you know it. And the pinky of the other one. And as fast as you can, switch. And as we do this, we see how much we need to learn to sync the two halves of our brain. And that's natural. The only reason I do it quickly is because I teach this all the time. But as you notice, you see, I really got to get my brain to work together the way I want to, right? You're doing good, Nika, that's all right. So it's a practice, but that's a physical way to show you that the two sides of your brain need to meld together. And we have to give each side that opportunity to work in order to get them to work best together, okay? So before we finish today, does anyone have any questions about any of the principles or anything they want to share, anything that they feel, might be helpful? Nope, everybody's good on it? Okay, so looking ahead, there's a lot of different, ways that we can do this. I'm trying to give you a kind of a round basis of principles that can be easily applicable to something that you want to accomplish, a habit you want to change, something you want to start new in your life to make a new or good habit. It's very important to tailor make this to those things that work best for you in a way that you find is helpful. A lot of times people will find somebody and say, oh, somebody's doing this, Oprah does this, or Elon Musk does that, or so-and-so does this, I'm going to follow their path. But not everything works for everyone. There are some people I have that they love to get up in the morning, and that's their time when they're fresh and they can meditate or they can work out, and that's going to work for them. And other people, they're night people. They don't want to get up early and do that. It's not going to work for them. So find, again, the way that works for you, right? Don't push yourself to try and make something you think is going to be the right way, because if you don't feel motivated, if you don't feel happy about doing it, if it feels like too much of a pressure, believe me, you're going to find ways to not do it. I would. Doesn't interest me. I'm a morning person. If somebody says to me 10 o'clock at night, that's when you got to start doing this, never going to happen. That's my time. I'm winding down. I'm getting ready to go to sleep. So I know for me, I can take a method, but I got to tweak it to work in my schedule for my own, circadian rhythm and my own abilities, right? I'm not comparing myself to see that I'm better or worse than somebody. I'm just knowing that this is what's going to work best for me. And then I can say, okay, I'm better than average. Woohoo! That's my goal, right? So take these principles and try out the ones that work for you. Find the ones that give you that incentive and motivation. And as you see progress, that will stimulate you to continue on, right? If you need anything, if you have questions, if you want to drop me a line or share something with me, anything like that, please feel free to write me, call me, text me. I will send out right now. I sent everybody my email, but this is my website if you want to see more of what I'm doing. I am going to be starting in the next couple weeks. We're going to do a Kickstart program, which is for working towards specific goals. If you have something that you want to achieve, my goal is, instead of, I know everybody always says, oh, January 1, I'm going to start the new year, blah, blah, blah. I know people will do that, but my goal is, I know this time of year is a time that becomes really hard to do things. There's so many holidays coming up. It's getting cold. It's going to be, a challenging time of the year. That's when I say, that's when you really got to start your plan of your motivating and your life change, because then once all of that passes, it becomes easier to do. So why wait for that motivation? Get it started now. So, write me, call me if you're interested. I'll send you more information about it. And we're here every single Saturday doing our different metaphysical practices. I hope that you will come and join us again next Saturday. Tomorrow at 2:30 is going to be our relationship metaphysical course, where we're going to be talking about finding your voice and speaking up for your needs within a relationship. That's going to be at 2:30 EST tomorrow on Sunday. So if anybody wants to join, I hope I'll see you there again as well. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Whether we talked a lot or not, I'm just happy to see everybody's faces and feel that energy and know that you're with me. Thank you, Arlene, for joining today. Thank you, Gabby, for joining, Nika, Dawn, just everybody out there. And I look forward to hearing from you all and your good progress soon. Okay, sound good? Yay! Love to everybody. Thanks so much. See you soon. Take care. Bye.